And probably a fun fact on me is that I like to read. Like I like to read. That's a lost art nowadays. Oh, my great uncle is Jesse Owens. He won 4 gold medals in 1936.
I always want to leave people with this, man, to all the viewers and everybody out there, man. Make sure you guys finish your story. Make sure you guys finish your journey because somebody's going to need it.
Yeah. All you got to do is push the back button. That's all you got to do. Push the back signal.
Try not to think about the future too much so you can maximize the now.
Who's your favorite rap artist?
Man, to be honest, it's crazy. Tupac always been my number one, right? Like he got me through so much stuff, but Lil Wayne has been in the modern day.
I said, what does it really take? What does it really take to be great, Drew? And he looked at me and he was like, you really want to know? And he was like, to be honest, everything you did to get here, you need to be consistent times 10.
Consistent times 10. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Lee. Welcome to Friday Night Interviews. You know how we like to do it around these here parts. It's Friday night. We're back at it like we're mad at it. Man, it's time to run one with your guys. With that being said, what's up, Uncle Leroy Jr.?
Hey, man, it's your dude, Uncle Leroy. Don't say the Leroy without the Junior. We back on this Friday with one of our hot interviews. Man, so y'all sit back. But look, before we get the interview started, got to reach way up there to the Bean, the home of the Boston Baked Bean, to get our guy, too, on this show, man. Let's bring him on. Boom, boom, boom. Uh-oh. There he is. We got to get him back.
Oh, okay. You hear me again?
Yeah, we can hear you. How's it going?
This is crazy.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, he's out of here. Well, look, we about to get this thing started. And before, we about to, Hey, look, if y'all anything from Grambling, y'all know this is it here. For dear Grambling. Hey, we're going to the 3. We will win this game. Fight. Hey. Talking about fight. How's it going there, Coach Murray? Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here. Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, there's no problem. So where you hanging out with us at? Where you hanging out with us? We know you're from places.
I'm from the SIP, but I'm in Ruston right now, trying to stay warm, man. It's so cold over here. I didn't think it would be this cold up in Louisiana, but we're trying to stay warm. We got a big game tomorrow against Mississippi Valley, and just trying to, just kind of get my mind right for that game.
Definitely, because that's gonna be a big game. We know we got some big games up and coming, throughout the season, especially coming in February. But before we get this, get this interview started. You're from Mississippi. Where you from? You're from Jackson, Mississippi?
Jackson, Mississippi, man. Born and raised, west side of Jackson, man. Probably about maybe 5 or 6 streets over from Jackson State.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was going to Jackson State was one of my places to go when I was in a band, because everyone knows Uncle Leroy. I love the band. So Jackson State was on my list to go there. But,
man, growing up, man, as a kid, we used to hear that band play to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, man. And so that was where I wound up going to school at, unfortunately. But, I wound up at the Graham, so I'm glad to be over at the Black and Gold.
Hey, that's what I'm talking. Let's clap it up for this man. You know what I'm saying? But hey, one thing, myself included, is like, every time I think of Mississippi, I just think of Ray's Boom Boom Room. And so this week, we actually polled our group. And so I'm going to ask you this question. So out of all these movies, one of these movies got to go. It's Menace to Society, Life, Love and Basketball, House Party, Poetic Justice, and Baby Boy. So out of those 6 movies, which one has to go?
Probably Baby Boy. Probably Baby Boy.
You right there.
That was easy to read in the mind, man. I said he's gonna go baby boy. I think that's a solid choice.
Yeah, baby boy had to go.
Back. All right, so okay, Coach Lee, I'm gonna ask you, which out of those 6 movies, which one you had voted to lead that had to go?
Probably because my daughters had me looking at it so much when they were growing up, man. I will probably say Baby Boy as well. I've seen it way too many times.
Hey, we batting 2 for 2. 2 for 2.
Exactly. All right, so we got one more. All right, now 2. What do you think? Which movie had to go?
Oh, this is tough. No, it's not. We got 2 love stories in here. I'm gonna take away Love and Basketball, man.
Oh my gosh!
Not
Love
loving
and Basketball. I Baby Boy, like movies. When you can fit them in again and again, I enjoy Baby Boy. For as much as people may not, out of the 6, I enjoy Baby Boy. I can watch it over and over and over again. You know, I used to could do that with Love and Basketball. I can't do that no more. Poetic Justice, Love and Basketball. I had to choose out of both of them, man. You know, both love stories.
What?
Wait,
come here. Oh, man.
Life's not going away at all.
No, life not going nowhere.
No, life's not going
nowhere.
Got to choose out of 2.
Exactly. So, all right, well, Coach, Coach Murray, we appreciate you hanging out with us. So, but definitely, this is your 6th year going into, the coaching with Grambling. So we want to know what actually inspired you to be a coach.
Man, I'm gonna tell you something. I always had the mentality of a coach when I was real young. I was the type of person that loved sports. I loved every sport. I played 6 sports growing up: football, basketball, soccer, cross country, tennis, and just had a love for just being around the game itself. After injury set in, and you're not able to play past that, you kind of want to find your niche as to what you really, really want to do. And coaching was something that I was just kind of asked to do after I moved back to Mississippi, and something I just fell in love with. I was always kind of had that mentality of a coach growing up. I wanted to always know everything about, the game itself, and I always studied players and who I was gonna actually, go up against when we went to the gym for pickup games, and so it just kind of just was a good marriage for me. And right now, I'm going on year 25, and I'm loving it.
Wow, that's impressive. Because you actually, you graduated with a business degree.
Business degree in business management. Tried my hand in corporate. Wound up working with the airlines for about 15 years. And again, like I said, moved back. When I moved back home, I moved back actually to get custody over my son. He was at an age that I felt like I really needed to be in his life. And when I moved back, I didn't have a plan at the time. And I wound up getting on at a middle school and teaching at a middle school. And when I got on at a middle school, they always want to get you to coach. And so I wound up coaching football, wound up coaching soccer, wound up coaching girls basketball. And then that's what kind of got me coaching. Again, I helped out on some AAU programs, and one thing led to another. I wound up kind of volunteering back at my alma mater with the men's basketball program at Jackson State. And a young lady that came there to be the head coach back in 2000, and I wound up asking her about being a grad assistant, and that kind of spearheaded my coaching on the female side. And like I said, it was just a sponge back then, just learning, growing, just learning everything I could about the game and about different people's styles. And it's been a valuable, rewarding career for me. And I'm glad to be at Grambling. I'm glad to be leading these women to some higher heights.
So, one thing that really stood out is how, you played 6 sports, like you was an overachiever, and so to people that don't know, the G in Grambling is for greatness. And you're right, you got the makings of it. You're an overachiever, you're doing this, and like the transition is just it just really amazed me how, you was able to just make that transition from the corporate world to school. Because myself, and I was a teacher, and it's different from talking to a person in the corporate world versus talking to kids. So
right. That's so true. But like I said, coming around, being in the neighborhood, you being respected by your peers, and you being one of the ones that was pretty good on all these teams that you were a part of, all that kind of just, it just kind of bled into what my future was actually going to become. And like I said, I tried to excel at everything that I put my hands to, as well as coaching, and been doing pretty good at it thus far. And like I said, it's just, I'm glad to be at a school like a Grambling that does embody greatness. They are a part of doing the right things to be the best that you can possibly be. And it's a great marriage for me and for my career.
Man, you saying all the right things. Look, I'm about to send my daughter over there to play on the team. She doesn't play basketball. She's a cheerleader, but you're saying all the right things, Coach. I love it. So,
yes, sir.
How you mentioned, you appreciate, your journey to Grambling, but it really wasn't an easy journey for you. Like, so how did you end up as the Grambling State University Lady Tigers head coach?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that the relationship that you make down through the years, you just never know where it's going to take you. And one thing when I first got into coaching, some older coaches told me is that loyalty goes a long way. And every job that I ever worked at, whether it was a volunteer job, whether it was a grad assistant job that eventually, moved on to be an assistant coaching job, I was just one of those type of persons that I was willing to do any and everything to just learn the ins and outs of the sport, of the business part of it, and just learn different people's styles. Because at a young age, when I did think that I wanted to get into coaching, I never really envisioned myself being a head coach, but I knew that I came from a family of leaders, and that if the opportunity ever presented itself, that I would probably be pretty good at it because of how I was raised at a very, very, very young age. And so when I got into it, it was a lot of hard work that went along with it. As a grad assistant, you don't really actually make a lot of money. So I had to work 2 jobs in the midst of being a grad assistant, being at practice, going on the road, traveling. There were times when we get in off the road at 2, 3 in the morning, and I have to go be at work at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I had to pay my dues throughout the whole process. But, this is what I wanted. My passion for wanting to be the best at coaching, for wanting to learn the game and wanting to win and get everything out of it that I can get. I knew I had to, have a true love for it, for sports, for coaching, and for just being the best at what you want to be a part of. And when I wasn't making money, I approached it the same as I am now that I'm being blessed to make a salary from this. So, like I said, it's just been a blessing that, no matter what you put your hands to, if you continue to keep working at it and continue to keep God first, it just blows your mind where God can what doors God can open up for you down the road.
I mean, you look like one of the kids that was raised right, and that's what I'm hearing. So you was prepared for, once again, this greatness. I love it. So we're gonna take a quick comment from from one of our viewers. So shout out to Chris. He's hanging out with us from Georgia. He says, "Hey, Coach Freddie, thank you for your work." So we do appreciate you for hanging out with us, Chris. So
I appreciate it.
And that falls in line to what you were saying, because if you don't have a passion for it, you really won't, once it becomes work and you won't get paid for it, you really won't have that same get up and go about it. So,
that's so true.
So that's good that you was raised, that you look for, that you look for work, that you're a doer. So that's pretty good.
Right. Well, rewards come in so many different forms. People look at it from a monetary standpoint, but for me, it was just the knowledge that I was gaining from it. You know what I mean? And like I said, it was just something that I knew that in order to achieve the greatness that I want to achieve in this profession, I got to be willing to go from point A all the way to Z and not overstep anything along the way. And so it's been a rewarding journey for me, and I've been blessed along the way to meet a lot of people and achieve a lot of things.
Yeah, because you definitely have that that persona where you walk in the room and be like, man, who is this guy? Definitely want to do more than see who he is, shake his hand. You want to have a conversation with him. So
Right.
Me meeting you briefly, you gain my respect. Just by walking our brief interaction, and that leads us to the next question. How do you gain the respect from the players on the Lady Tigers basketball team and just any team? Because we've had different coaches come on our show, and with men,
Right.
it's different. It's like it's a creed. It's like, hey, it's like a bro. You know what I'm saying? We can't do that. So tell us how you do that, because I can't even tell my daughter to do something and she come back and do what I ask. So I'm telling you, I'm taking notes right now.
Well, it's all about consistency. You got to be consistent in who you are. You can't be fake and phony. You can't preach one thing and then do another thing. My kids never really ever see me out. The life I live, it's not out in the public's eye where I can be, it could be construed or taken the wrong way. I was raised the right way. I was raised to do the right things. I was raised to treat people right. And, I hang around a lot of successful people, a lot of older people, a lot of people that's about their business. And when I came into Grambling as an assistant coach, one thing I did, one thing they was able to identify with me was that, I was hard and stern, but I'm gonna love you in the process. And I came up through an era where it was all about that tough love.
Hold on, say that again. Wait, coach, you can't just roll past that and drop that money bag and not come back and say it again. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I came through tough love, man. I came through an era where it was all about tough love. My parents, they preached about doing the right thing. They preached about living the right way. Treating people the right way. We was raised from a Christian background, and so that had a lot to do with my journey and how I approach life. And so I always saw positives in a negative situation. And so whenever I approach something, I didn't dwell so much on the negative. I dwelled on what can we build from this and grow from this. And so every situation you can kind of learn from. And like I said, so when I came into Grambling, like I said, it was a situation where I was coming there to help a friend out, and they were going through a rough patch, but one thing I did know prior to getting there is that I saw what they had as, already as a team. And I knew that whatever I can bring to it can help them, enhance them to achieve more than what they have achieved the previous year. And we was able to do that. And they were able to see that my work ethic, was I was going to grind more than they were going to grind, And so when they see somebody that's willing to put the time in, that's willing to put the energy in to be successful, no matter what, no matter how tired you are, no matter how you're feeling, I think they have a level of respect for you. And, like I said, when I came in, I don't, whatever my hands find to do it. That's what I was always told as a young kid. My grandfather always said, there's always something to do. At the end of the day, I think we just end the day, but there's always something that you can be doing to actually better yourself. And so that's what I try to instill to our kids on a daily basis. And they see it, and they see it. They know I'm hard on them, but in the end of the day, they know I care about them and there's nothing that I wouldn't do for them.
Man, look, we had to take a break because you dropping these nuggets. We're going to have to change. We got to start paying these things. We're going to drop your PayPal on the street. There's some money bags right here. But before we take this quick break, shout out to Cassandra. She's hanging out with us from YouTube. She says, "Hi, Coach. I can't wait to get back to the games. It's because of you that I started coming to see the Lady Tigers play." So
Yeah, Miss Cassandra. I think I met her. She's from Louisiana. I was driving back from Jackson to back to Grambling, and I stopped off to get gas, and I wound up meeting her at a fast food restaurant, and I introduced myself to her, and I invited her out to some games, and just that interaction between, just within those few minutes, she became a big fan of Grambling women's basketball and has been supporting us ever since.
Wow.
Great memory.
Look, once again, man, we gotta give a comment up for Coach Murray saying the right things. Like, I'm telling you, look, how old are you, young fella? I might have to get you hooked up with some lady in my family.
I'm an old 54. Old 54.
So we're about to take our quick break. We're gonna be back with more of this interview with Grambling's ladies Tigers basketball coach Murray. Y'all sit back, keep them comments coming.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Hey guys, it's your girl Tamara Moore, former WNBA guard and current head coach at Mesabi Range College. I want to give a big shout out to STWF Media, the big brand, for showing love and always being about those good sports. Make sure you guys show them love. You and your community can join them every week to talk about sports. Shouts out to them and make sure you check them out.
Boom, and we back with more of this interview. Grambling's own basketball Lady Tigers basketball coach Murray. Man, so you ready to drop some more nuggets?
Most definitely. Let's keep it going.
I like that. All right, so, I'm a band guy, so one of the biggest things is, the hype, the pep rally, and as a band, I didn't care about the football team losing any other game throughout the year, but they better win the Bayou Classic. That's it.
That's right.
So, being in the football, and I know, I'm from New Orleans, so Southern is a rival, period. So who's the team rival for the Tigers, like in basketball?
I'm going to tell you something. When Grambling was winning back in the day, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that Grambling is known for a lot of things, but women's basketball is one of those programs that was consistently winning back in the day. And people talk about Eddie Robb, true enough. People talk about the track program, but women's basketball, legendary Coach Bibbs, Pat Bibbs, they were dominating everybody back in the day. And so when you say a rivalry, I will probably have to say,
I'm listening, sorry.
Everybody that's in the conference. We know Southern is. We know Jackson State has become. We've developed some rivalries with Prairie View and Texas Southern and Alabama State. But I think everybody that has felt the wrath of Grambling view Grambling as a rivalry. And so whenever we go into games, we get everybody's best game. There'd be games when we would actually watch them play against other people and say they didn't play that team as hard as they playing us. And so one thing about it is that Grambling has given a lot of L's to a lot of people, and people are trying to come back and get those W's. But every game we actually go into, I can honestly say, is a rivalry game for the Lady Tigers.
So as you go into the season, and all these teams are going for the top spot, your spot, how's that elaborate into potentially tournament time? In the NCAA tournament, where you will be stacked against better competition?
Well, one thing about it, my whole mindset has always been I don't recruit for a conference. I recruit for postseason play. And so that's my mentality when it comes to recruiting. I want to recruit to be able to go and win games outside of conference. I think that's where you really gain your respect amongst your peers is when you can go and beat Power 5 schools, schools that have budgets that are 20 times larger than you. You're not even supposed to be on the court with them. And you come in there and you beat them. And so we've been blessed to be able to do that. We beat some Power 5 schools. But our conference has gotten tremendously stronger over the last few years. And we right now have a conference that can play with a lot of people in women's basketball. Obviously, the there's never a level playing field. You know, the way it's set up, you're not going to really see it. You know, I can even think back to when Jackson State and Alcorn and Valley and Grambling had women's basketball programs that probably could have won the NCAA tournament, but wasn't being allowed to play in the NCAA tournament. So our schedule every year is going to be tough. You know, it's by design. I don't want the stage to be too big for our players when we're faced with those opportunities to make it to postseason play if we're blessed to get that far. But like I said, our conference is getting better, and the competition that we go against in non-conference prepares us for conference, and I think it prepares us for postseason play as well.
Wow. All right. So, you know, that leads to the next question. Like I said, I'm a band guy, so I gotta ask, you know, I gotta put this band in here. So what is your favorite Tiger marching band world fame? What is your favorite song?
Man, come on. I'm from an HBCU. Everybody know the number one song, no matter what school you go to, is neck. Talking out the side of your neck. I'm gonna tell you something. That is I've been blessed to be at 4 HBCUs, and that neck song is by far the number one song.
Yes, sir. They won't know
by far the number one song.
You love right there. They don't know nothing about that. You know, we're gonna take a quick pivot.
And I'm gonna tell you this. What's so funny is that I've been to some Power 5 schools and have heard their bands trying to play it, but they can't.
Wow.
Can't play schools.
I've been to some Power 5 schools, and I promise you, there are people that know that song right there is the number one band song to be played across the country. And I hear them trying to play it, but they cannot play it.
They're losing their mind. Yeah. But shout out to A.D. Bunner because, you know, back in 1998, he helped write the version. He was the drum major, A.D. Bonner. So he helped write the version that we play at Grambling currently. So shout out to him. And shout out to Dr. Roebuck.
Yeah.
Roebuck. So she's doing great things with the band.
Roebuck. She's doing great things over there. Yeah.
Back. So great to know. Like, see, that's the difference. I was just telling someone, you know, like, because even when Graham was looking for a coach or whatever, they was asking, you know, what type of coach would I prefer? It has to be someone from the HBCU to me. Just like, it's a different type of love, you know, like, I just enjoy
it is.
You know, coaches, because it's a different type of appreciation. You know, I had the opportunity my crab year to meet Eddie Robb, you know, so we got a lot of great history up there at Grambling. And coach, it seemed like you filling in nicely, sir.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, I give a lot of respect to my peers that came before me. And like I said, I've been blessed to watch them up close. I've been blessed to be around them, and I just want to be able to be half of what they were back in the day.
Wow, definitely respect. Shout out to you. You know, you're filling in those shoes quite nice. But shout out to Cassandra. She's still hanging out with us on YouTube. Grambling plays it best. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So we got a question here. So it's a Facebook user. So they ask, they must be in our group. So they ask, hey, coach, what is the recruiting process for the Lady Tigers? How does one get on your radar?
Well, the recruiting process, it actually starts. I mean, we recruit year to year. I mean, all around the year. It never stops. We're actually recruiting now to complete a couple of positions for our 22 class, working on our 23 and our 24 class. With us, it comes down to need. Each year, we try to find out what our need is, and we try to, recruit accordingly. We recruit all over the country. We even working on some opportunities outside the country from an international standpoint. Recruiting has changed. You know, recruiting, people don't realize, but recruiting is a lifeline of any program. You know, without the players, without the talent level, you're not going to be successful. I heard an old football coach say one time, "He who has the talent wins." And by far, that makes a lot of sense. So for us, we recruit in state as well as across the country. We recruit sometimes, 100, 150 players, sometimes just to find 3 or 4. So we eventually narrow it down. It has to be certain characteristics that we're looking for in some of our players. A lot of, with the emergence of the transfer portal that started last year, it's kind of done made recruiting a little different now. Prior to the transfer portal, we were going the high school route, junior college route, possibly looking for transfers that wanted to leave and come and play. Now with the transfer portal being an option now that you can kind of recruit somebody from another Division I school that can come in and play right away, it's kind of done shifted recruiting to where now people are starting to look more at the transfer portal versus going the junior college and high school route first. So we're going to go all 3 routes. Like I said, we get calls and emails constantly. There's no way that we can actually, see everybody, but we do get out on throughout the year and put our eyes on kids. I think sometimes from a recruiting standpoint, being able to see kids in person versus seeing them on tape, I think it brings more of a real nature to our recruiting. And we actually, missed that during COVID when we wasn't able to go out and recruit for a year and a half. And so we had to revert to just recruiting online. But now being able to go out and see kids, we'll go to a tournament during the summer and spring where we might see over 5,000 kids. And we're able to build our recruiting base based on the kids that we saw during those events that we've gone to. So recruiting is, like I said, it's something that we really put a lot of emphasis in and put a lot of time in because, without the players, we can only be so successful.
Agreed. And so, Coach, your words didn't even dry, so they got to be in our group. So definitely drop your name because we want to know who you are. So Facebook user says, "Well, Coach, I'll be in your email with my daughter. She plays here in Shreveport. I'm a GSU alum, and I want her to go to Grambling first." So yeah, definitely, I'm a Grambling alum. I want her to go there. He's an HBCU alum, so definitely drop your name in there. So if he doesn't answer your email, I'll definitely give him a hard time about that. So
he will. Please do. Please do. I'm telling you, we get probably hundreds of emails a day, myself and my coaches, and it's sometimes it's not, we don't get a chance to see all of them, but definitely continue to keep sending them. If you got anybody that can reach out to us and get it to us, do that as well.
So you mentioned earlier, you touched on it briefly. You mentioned on COVID and how you couldn't go out and recruit for a year, which definitely should cause a bottleneck in recruiting and, reoccurring talent. So how has COVID impact? Now we're post-COVID or pandemic, whatever, recovery. So how was it impacted and how are we recovering from it?
Well, it hurt us a lot last year when we wasn't able to bring it. When we ended the season last year in March, COVID shut everything down. And when it shut it down, our kids, as soon as we got back from out of town, our kids were gone 3 days later. And when they left, they were gone for 8 months. And so we didn't have them none in the off season. We didn't have none in the summertime. And then many of them didn't come back until after Labor Day. And when they came back, as much as you wanted to instill in your kids to do the right things when they were back at home, many of them didn't. And it really affected us. And last year was one of those years that it was just, we was just a trial and error to just see if we can kind of get through it. And it threw everything off. It threw recruiting off. We got shut down probably 3 or 4 times throughout the year where we had finally gotten them to where we needed them to be in preparation for the season. And then we got shut down for 14 days where we couldn't do anything and then had to go on the road and play a Power 5 school. And so that was not pretty. And then throughout the year, just not knowing whether or not you were going to play, you had enough to play, was it going to be able to even finish the season? it was a tough year to get through. You know, my hat went off to anybody that was able to really go through it without really being affected by COVID. But we were hit directly, and from a coaching standpoint and players, the way it did affect us. Now going into this year, I think we had a better hold on it of dealing with it, and we actually were able to really, you know, get our kids in during the off season, get our kids in during the summer. And it really has paid dividends moving forward. We still deal with it now to some degree, but it's not to the level of what we dealt with last year. And we're probably about a month and a half away from the season being over with. So
wow.
Even though it affected us, our kids were still resilient. You know, it was a lot that we were throwing on them to try to adjust to on a day-to-day basis, because this thing was so fluent to where you didn't really know which way it was going to go. And it affected recruiting. It affected to the point where NCAA gave kids back a year, and that kind of threw our recruiting off as well, because when they gave them back another year to be able to come back, we got 3 kids that actually graduated that could have went on, that was able to come back, and it really helped us out because we was able to keep some experience within the program and not drop off by losing players. So we're by the grace of God, we're navigating through it, and I think that we're better now than we were last year, and it's just an ongoing thing that we're gonna have to deal with moving forward.
Hey, you're just resilient. So, you know, we got to take a quick break, you know, because, you know, we'll come back with more of these nuggets, this, you know, this doer mentality and this greatness that you keep talking about. So everybody sit back, and we'll be back with more of Coach Murray. Let's get a break.
What's up, world? Kyrie Robinson, man. New Orleans Saints veteran. Hey, man, make sure you guys go check out my guy, man, STWF, the media, man. Check them guys out. Y'all want to get sports talks with players, with fans, anything like that, man, go check them guys out, man. That's the place to be if you want to talk sports. Who that nation?
Boom, we back with more of this interview with Coach Murray hanging out with us, man. We do appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We got to ring the alarm, man. You're in the building. So, you know, Coach, you know, like I say, you're coming on the show. You got a lot of sauce, you know, got a lot of, you know, saying all the right things, man. I'm telling you, you need to vote for congressman or something. I am voting for you. So, what is your style? Like, what is your style of coaching? Because, you know, I see you're very charismatic, so I can see the leadership all on you. So, but what is your coaching style?
Well, I had to change. Again, I come from old school of coaching where, you know, it's no nonsense, you know, work hard, you know, do the right things, you know, attention to details, you know, being fundamentally sound. I had to really change over time because a lot of those things wasn't really adapting with the younger generation. And so being able to have a couple of younger coaches on my staff that kind of stay on me, you know, I adjusted as time went along, but it still has that old school feel to it. So if I had to really, you know, identify, it'll be a little bit of Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll. Okay. You know, Bill Belichick is old school, you know, fundamentally do the right thing, you know, not a rah-rah guy, don't get too high, don't get too low. But then Pete Carroll, you know, let your hair down, let the music play during practice, you know, let your kids have a good time. And we kind of mesh it all together where our kids know how far to go. But then there are times when we're going to have a good time even in the process. And I think it's been a blessing because our kids understand that there is a balance. You know, there has to be a balance. You know, we're going to have a good time when it's time to have a good time. And then when it's time, you know, to go to work and put that hard hat on, we're going to go to work, you know. But then when it's over with, we're going to have a good time. So that's how we kind of operate on a day-to-day basis. And our kids enjoy it. and even now I'm learning more from them. And I think it's been a blessing because it's helping my coaching. It's helping me stay in the game a lot longer than a lot of my predecessors who's starting to get out of it.
Wow. Now, I mean, you can tell that, you know, your team, your staff love you because I'm gonna do a quick recap. Now, I met Coach in the, in the airport at Chick-fil-A. So, I get in line, I'm like, man, who all these kids holding the line? I'm ready to eat. I'm trying to get my flight. I'm like, who these kids? I'm like, wait, they got Grambling on. So they talk about G. I'm like, G, man. Coach G, I had to pull Coach back. He just like, he the guy, he wasn't the deal. So he just back there.
Right.
But everyone hustled. It was fun. They weren't like standing up like soldiers. They were, everyone, you can tell that, it was time to have fun and they knew how to turn it off and turn it back on. So, shout out to you again, Coach. Doing the right thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, like I said, you got to meet these kids where they are. My thing is that I don't never want to take the fun out of it. And like I said, we're gonna have a good time, but I'm just so much of that old school is ingrained in me. I don't think that's gonna never go anywhere because I think that's what made so many of us successful growing up, and that was the blueprint to get to where we wanted to be at in life. And these kids, a lot of them don't understand that, and so that kind of plays into how I identify with them is because they see consistency in what I do. They see consistency in how I approach life on a day-to-day basis. And so it is from a serious standpoint, but you can be able to, let your hair down even in the process too and have a good time.
You know what? That's a great point. Because when I was teaching 7th grade at Valina C. Jones in New Orleans, there was these, boys, they consistently did not want to wear belts. And Mr. Parker, I consistently wrapped some pink yarn around them and made them wear some belts. I stayed consistent about them wearing belts. And, I had some pushback, but it was all good. They were like, Mr. Parker,
exactly.
The pink ribbon, that's a bit extreme. Well, you walking past me with your pants falling is a bit extreme to me too. But we both.
Right. Well, one thing I do tell them is that you're going to get it. A lot of them don't get it right then and there. But in life, you will get it. It might be years later, but eventually it will settle in. And I can honestly say is that being consistent, there have been so many times later in life that kids have come back and said, I appreciate you being who you were and how you was because I didn't see it then, but I see it now.
Facts. All right. So wait, look like we got another comment coming up, but so, you mentioned about, your coaching style, the way you operate, but what are your core values? You mentioned, earlier.
One of my core values, go ahead.
No, just saying, you mentioned, earlier in the show, about, you come from a family with good religious background. So, but, within your program, what are your core values?
Togetherness. We're gonna win, lose, together. Whatever we do, we're gonna be together in everything that we do. You got to be optimistic. You got to be, have optimism. You got to be positive, a positive thinker. You got to constantly feel as though just because things were a certain way this day, that's gonna change the next day. And you change. If you can't, the old saying goes, if you can't change the situation, you change the way you think about the situation. But whatever we do, we're gonna stay positive, throughout that whole process. Get an understanding on what our goals are from a day-to-day basis and what we want to do to try to continue to achieve that. You want to have gratitude. You want to constantly be thankful and thank God for giving you the opportunity to do what you do and keep Him first in everything that you do. So much of what I'm all about is about hard work. Hard work is another core value that we really talk about. You get what you put in. If you don't put anything in, you can't get anything out. But hard work is going to be the backbone of everything that we do or even try to do on a consistent basis. And then you got to be enthusiastic about, what you're doing. Because if you're not, really in tune to what you're doing and not happy about what you're doing, you're not going to give it your all.
You made a good point because I had to, just like you said, I had to reinforce that with my daughter. during the conversation, I'm like, hey, positive thoughts get positive results. I'm like, let's just think,
Right.
when you go there, this is going to happen. Now, if it doesn't, you'll be prepared. But, like you were saying, let's think positive. So, circling back around. So that's my crowd brother, Robert. What up, Big Blue baby? Hey, coach, you definitely got to holler at his daughter. She can ball. She can ball. So we definitely
She can ball. Okay.
Yeah, she can ball. She got game. She's in the newspaper. We were so yeah, definitely got to get in there. Get a locked in. Got to get a locked in, coach.
I look forward to seeing her. Yeah.
Got to get up. So, just talking about that. So that leads into the next question. Which method you recommend high school athletes use to be noticed by college recruits? Because one thing that struck me odd or just new, like this football player, he's in high school. So he posted on his Instagram, he was like, hey, which university will get me 5,000 followers? And I'm like, what's the guy doing? Oh, that's ingenious. So, but how do you, how would you recommend, kids getting in front of college recruiters? Or
well, a lot of kids don't do anything over the summertime and the spring. If you go to a lot of these events, you're going to play in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of coaches, assistant coaches, head coaches, on a regular basis. And when we're there, we're looking for different things. We're not always looking to see who's winning. We're not always looking to see who's on the flashy teams. We're looking for those traits that makes any team successful. Hardworking, team player. Do you have basic skills, basic fundamental skills? You'd be surprised the kids today that don't have the basic skills that we used to get when we were a lot younger growing up. So playing consistently during the summertime, that's something that a lot of coaches are going to spend a lot of money to do, because again, you can't see everybody everywhere, but when you can go to a tournament. I went to a tournament one time and it was 10,000 kids at this tournament playing. It was 95 basketball courts. I was there for 4 days, and I was able to see 10,000 kids under one roof. And so we go to probably 8 to 10 of those events every year. But to go to see 10,000 kids from all over the United States under one roof, you're not going to get that everywhere. And like I said, so that builds our recruiting base up a lot of times to where we have names like for classes that are 2-3 years down the road of kids that we done seen, and we just continue to keep working those names and seeing how players develop over time, and that's how we start to narrow our choices down. We recruit so many because you miss out on so many. Again, your eye is just like a lot of other people's eye. Everybody pulling for the same talent, but when you have to recruit so many to get so few, again, by the time you kind of narrow that list down, you almost sometimes have to start back over again. But we try to get out and see a lot of the kids that's in our area. Schools is in our area. We have camps where we try to encourage kids to come to our camps so we can see them up front at our facility, which we have about 2 or 3 camps a year. So there are many ways, that we can actually see kids. Again, the old-fashioned way of sending game film. That's another way that can kind of go a long way.
Talk about game film. I'm like, I thought the only way you do it. So you put me on game.
But the eye test, most kids, most coaches want to see. Like I said, when we wasn't able to go out and recruit for a year and a half, and we got to watching live stream events for a year and a half, which was something new for everybody, you couldn't really see the intangibles that you needed to see by going to watch them in person. You know what I mean? There's only so much that you can see when you're looking at a camera that's showing the whole court, and you really can't see a number. You really can't see who this player is. Right. But when you're able to go see them in person and you're able to really see what their true skill set is, when you're able to eventually contact them and talk to them to see, do this kid, have a lot of the character traits that you're looking for. With us, it's much more than just basketball. A lot of it has to be the right fit to fit in with our players that we presently have on our basketball team. And so people think it's just all about talent, which really that's only a portion of it. We really want to dig in and really get to know kids and really know really what they're really about outside of the game of basketball.
I love that statement, Coach, because that's what it is. It's the character trait. A lot of, like you say, a lot of people, and growing up, myself included, you'd be like, oh, all you gotta do is work on your game. No one's building this character, making sure that our kids know how to speak well in front of a camera, how to be, cohesive with the team. Because like you said, honestly, I think that now, we lack the fact that, like I said, the core fundamentals that, when you put a kid on a team, they're learning team ball to be a team player. It's not just the I. So, that's great to hear that into your recruiting. Man, that is wow. That's
right.
Good.
Well, a lot of people don't realize this, but back in the day, y'all are old enough to understand John Thompson in Georgetown.
Yes.
John Thompson recruited a lot of guys that didn't have father figures. They wasn't raised in households with father figures. So he wanted to be that positive father figure in their life. And that's why he was able to kind of galvanize those guys to really believe in what he wanted to accomplish on the court. And so you got to just find out, where you can make the biggest impact. So many of these kids today, they're lacking so much, and so when they come to you, they're coming to you lacking a lot of things. And so you have to kind of navigate through and really find out, can you really help this kid, from a social standpoint, academic standpoint, can you help this kid, in our social skills, just become a complete person, and so it's really a lot that goes into it. HBCUs have kind of always been that particular vehicle that has kind of given kids a second and third and a fourth chance. And so I'm just thankful to kind of be an opportunity where I can impact lives at a university and at a place like a HBCU who is always standing in the gap, trying to really help kids to achieve greatness.
Wow. So, Coach, I got, it's my last question for, man, it's so, we played it so hard to say goodbye, but our time is ending soon. So I got to get these questions out. So this question here,
yes, sir.
You talk about, you interact with a lot of people, a lot of students, you have huge, tremendous impact. What was your biggest moment as, being, let's say, as the Grambling State Tiger head coach? Or your biggest
I'm gonna tell you something
associated with the university?
Well, coaching Shakyla Hill was a blessing. You're talking about a young lady that actually came to Grambling not even being recruited and went down as probably one of the best players to ever play at Grambling. You're talking about a young lady, 5'7", that led us in every category possible that you can lead a team in: points, rebounds, assists, steals, minutes played. 5'7", averaging 10 rebounds a game, leading the nation in steals, almost 6 steals a game. The things that she was able to do in such a small form. One of the things that I really felt great about was, when we went into Puerto Rico about 3 or 4 years ago, and we went in with a record of 2-9. Indiana had the longest win streak at the time, and they went in 10-0. South Dakota State was the NCAA team. They went in 9-1. Loyola Marymount went in 8-2. And when we went in, we was 2-9. We had just left from playing South Florida before going to Puerto Rico, and we gave South Florida everything that we could have gave them and should have beat them, but wound up losing to them by 9. They were the number 15 team in the country. But when we went into Puerto Rico, the guy that was over the tournament didn't really want to talk to us, I guess because of our record wasn't as great as everybody else's record that was there. And so we went in 2-9, everybody 10-0, 9-1, 8-2. But when we played South Dakota on that first game and had a chance to beat them, I think it made a believer of him in who we were as a program. But to come back the second day and beat, I think Indiana at that time was probably flirting with a top 25 ranking, and we beat them in Puerto Rico. I can remember this guy coming back to me, just in amazement that this was probably one of the, out of my 70-some years of being on this earth, that was probably one of the best games I ever watched us play when we upset Indiana. And then to come right back and we beat Loyola Marymount the next night. And we came out of that tournament, with a 2-1 record, but we should have been 3-0. And him literally not wanting to talk to me when we first got there, to literally begging me to come back and play the next year. That just said a lot to, where Grambling was as a basketball program and what we was able to accomplish. And one thing I tried to, but it kind of played into what I tried to tell those kids that they can accomplish when they first got there. But to finally do it, that just kind of, brought some validity to, we can achieve greatness where we are. We don't have to go to a bigger school to do it. We can do it right here. And so to beat those type of programs, where you're not being given an opportunity to compete, that's what I'm trying to do on a day-to-day basis, because we can do it. We've done it before in the past, and we can continue to do it even now.
So that is great. So I just want to ask this one question. So was your petty meter on after after you beat the teams you walked out? Because I'm telling you, if I would have won with I'd have had my mint coat come out there. Well,
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm always even keeled, because my thing is that ever since I've been a child and how I was raised, I go in believing I'm a winner from the door. And so when we win, I always tell our players, win like you've been there before. And so when we walk off the court, we just kind of take it for what it is, but we can continue on moving. When you achieve one goal, it's the thing now is to try to find what's the next goal that we're going to achieve. And so that's how I approach this thing. I never get too high, never get too low. And that's how my players learn to understand what Coach Murray is all about.
Wow. Well put, because, I'm from New Orleans. I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. I come in thinking about the win. So when I win, I'm ready to cut up, second line and everything. So the Dallas Cowboy fan, they come like, hey, man, act like you've been there before. I'm like, hey, like, what? Shout out to you, Coach.
Well, I ain't gonna lie. We had a good time. I think our bill after that game was over $1,000. So I made sure I actually made sure that the kids had a great time with it.
Definitely gotta celebrate that.
Hey, I'm looking for that old fabulous song. Just throw it in the bag. That's how you want. That's what I'm talking about, Coach. But, so this lastly, so you being a Jackson State fan, alumni, you have to know about all this attention that's been going on with Coach Prime and the football program. So do you think that is just locking down, just helping football, or is it helping sports altogether, like basketball, all HBCU sports? What do you think is that impact?
I think it's not just helping football; it's helping shine a light back on HBCUs. Trust me, when Deion was in Tallahassee at Florida State, he knew about FAMU. He actually knew what the HBCU was all about, even when he was in Tallahassee. And bringing him coming to Jackson State is only, shedding an even broader light on HBCUs. And I love it, because I always say, the future is just a reoccurrence of the past, and things have a way of kind of coming back around again. And that, and the Bible did say the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And so we getting our just due now, and I think that is rightfully so. The best is yet to come. Let me just say that the best is yet to come.
So before I pass him, I got one more question for you. I seen the clips when Prime got drove into Jackson. What was up with the Princess Zamunda act? Like, what I'm saying? They had
well, one thing about Jackson, one thing you don't know about Jackson State. Hey, one thing you don't know about Jackson State, that's that boom, boom, room mentality. Jackson State is all about, the show. They all about the show. They all about the flair. They gonna do it. They gonna do it big. And when I saw it, I couldn't do nothing but just applaud them because, hey, I done seen that happen so many different times around Jackson, you know, and I'm just glad that he's there, and I'm glad that he's the one for the moment to really get this thing going.
Agree. Shout out to him. So before we get up out of here, we're closing up. Coach Lee, you got any questions?
I sure do. Thank you.
He was ready. He's like, oh wait, I've been waiting.
First of all, Coach, we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. You know, your presence be greatly appreciated. First question for you. What goes through your mind the night before a game?
Night before a game, I'm really not even thinking about the game, to be honest with you. My mind is, you know, I'm kind of relaxing. I'm listening to music, maybe watching TV. The work is already done throughout the week, you know. So now it's just a matter of just getting there and really just, you know, making sure when we get ready to hit that court, that everything that we talked about throughout that week, that we bring it to the court, you know. And my thing is that I try not to put a lot of pressure on them. And so I'm kind of, like I said, I detach from it. I'm the type of person that I'm not always totally consumed with it on a consistent basis. You know, I'll pick it up when I have to pick it up, but then I'll put it down when I got to put it down.
Makes sense. What's your go-to pregame meal?
My go-to pregame meal is probably a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich and some lemonade. I
thought you on the job.
Okay. What technology advances in the game have you liked thus far?
Well, we have we deal with you know, some editing service that the WNBA and the NBA uses called Synergy Sports Tech. And with this particular service, we're able to zero in on what teams like to do on a consistent basis. Individually, if I want to pull a player out and just look at that one particular player to see what they do good, but they see what they do bad, I'm able to kind of just pull that person up and see them on the offensive end, on the defensive end. It gives me a rating as to, you know, what they like to do, you know, whether they like to go left or they like to go right. You know, are they stronger in zone versus man? And so that's something that wasn't never there growing up in the game. That's a plus, because now you can get a live scouting report at your fingertips, where I can look at, you know, laying in the bed on my phone or in the hotel on a road trip, just pull up the computer and look at it. That, and then the analytical part of it now is starting to be something that a lot of people are going to now. You know, everybody's trying to find, you know, trying to just, you know, make the game that much more simpler. So those are some things that, from a technology standpoint, that there's been a heaven sent to us over the last few years.
I can definitely see that doing it for you. I got two more questions. I'll be out your hair. How have you changed from your? No problem. So how have you changed from year one to year now as a coach?
I've changed. I'm not saying I've changed much. You know, I'm starting to see things sometimes, you know, growing up, it was always about, this is how it's going to be done, and we're not going to deviate from it. You know, we're either going to do it this way or we ain't going to do it at all. So now where you have to kind of like compromise somewhat, you know, try to get them to understand why you're doing certain things versus to just being able to tell them and then you just go and do it. This generation, you know, is really different from my generation. And so I think I've changed from that standpoint, because back then, you know, if you told me to run through that wall, we ran through that wall. You know, now I tell you to run through that wall and you want to know, well, why do I run through that wall? Why do I have to run through that wall? And so if anything has changed from year one to now, it's that. But again, the core values that I was instilled with at a young age are still there. I think there are certain players that get it, and there are certain players that don't get it. We just try to make sure that those that don't get it are at least pushed a little bit to that side to where they can kind of understand why some of the things why we're asking you to do some of the things.
Okay, that makes sense. And my last question. So I myself, I had the privilege to coming from a high school that some consider one of the greatest high school girls programs in the nation. And that's the Duncanville Panthers. How many players have you actually had a chance to recruit from Duncanville?
I've actually recruited 3 players from Duncanville. It's been some years. That program is definitely one of the top programs in the country. Again, Duncanville, Texas has always been a hotbed for players. What's so funny is that when we were recruiting and we are actually looking at players, and I'm there recruiting next to Gino, and I'm there recruiting next to all the other coaches, and we're seeing the same players. And I'm saying, okay, well, I must be onto something because I'm seeing what they see. I see the talent level like they see the talent level, but I know that there are times that I can't get that type of talent, and so a lot of the players that we have recruited at those particular programs, especially at a Duncanville, chose not to go to Grambling, but it doesn't discourage us to continue to recruit there, because I think if you continue to keep plugging away at it, eventually you'll get some players out of that program.
You most definitely will, and especially as we talked about earlier, how things are changing, and you're going to start seeing a lot of people who probably normally wouldn't have gone to the HBCU starting to do so. So definitely looking forward to you starting to land some of those players.
Yeah, Sky Jacobs was one that I was trying to get recently that wound up going to UTA. I don't know if you remember Sky Jacobs that came from Duncanville.
Yep.
All right, I see. You got your hands in a lot of places there, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Before we get to what's about this upcoming? What do you think about this upcoming? Because we get in the paper, we getting these ads, seeing in the news that Grambling basketball is actually going to be featured on NBA TV.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We were featured last year against Jackson State, and we're going to be featured this year. And when we go to Houston to play against Texas Southern, it'll be the men and women's program. I think it just, to God be the glory, that they've selected us to be one of those premier programs that to be shown on that station. Last year was the first year it was ever done where they show the men and the women's game on the NBA TV, and they're going to do it again this year. I think we're one of 2 games. The first game is going to be, I think, Texas Southern versus FAMU. And then the second game is going to be us against Grambling against Texas Southern. So I'm thankful that they saw fit to put us on there and really shine an even brighter light on Grambling men and women's basketball.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. So, last thing. So, should we be prepared to see when the Joe Namath Mink on NBA TV? So, how is it? With the big audience, is it still business as usual, or do you get caught up in the light?
I got you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. One thing COVID has changed is that a lot of people's coaching attire has changed a little bit to where everybody now wants to wear warm-ups, tennis shoes, quarter zips. You have some coaches, when they have a TV game, they want to dress up so they can kind of show their Sunday best on. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. It's been a year and a half since I worn a suit. It kind of helped me with my cleaning business, my cleaning bill, because I don't have to put them in the cleaners that much no more. But I don't know. I always ask my assistant coach what she wants to do, and she kind of lets us know which direction that we're going to go with our dress on coaching on game day.
All right, so I'll be prepared. So all our viewers, y'all be prepared for the February game to see Coach Murray with some chains on, with the gangster grill and some ring on. So before we let Coach go, you got any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. You mentioned a few coaches earlier, Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick. Also mentioned John Thompson. Is there any other coaches on your list that inspired you or even motivated you to continue coaching?
Well, in the women's game, you kind of want to continue to, identify with some coaches that are in your sport. Coach Bibbs is a pioneer in the game that I was able to watch her team play when I was in Jackson, cheering for Jackson State, and she was at Grambling, and I had a chance to actually coach with her at Grambling. Coach with her at North Carolina A&T and win championships with her at A&T. But she's went down as one of the winningest coaches in the women's game. She's somebody that I really talk to on a day-to-day basis, even now. The Vivian Stringers, there's some people, older coaches that I've still talked to on the men's side that I was with back in the day. I kind of gravitate to a lot of the older coaches that are either on the men and the women's side. Like I said, always trying to just gain more and more knowledge as to, what can I do to continue to evolve in this game. A lot of the younger coaches that I had, even with my football coaches and my soccer coaches back in the day, I kind of think back to them sometime, and I think back to what they were trying to get us to do back then, and I see myself, doing a lot of the same things that they did as well. And I think we all, kind of teeter around the same path as to trying to just get young people to achieve greatness and achieve more than what they think they can achieve. And I'm just glad that God has just blessed me to be able to just be in this position to continue to grow, to continue to push the level, and continue to not become content. Not become content. I'm still striving, trying to push for even higher heights. And just in the process, I just hope that God, is pleased with what I'm doing when it's all said and done.
Man, that's heavy right there. Look, I'm about to get my Bible app all open up in here, man. Things on how to last, how to stay here, because that's one thing that I've seen. You longevity. You've been coaching for a while. This is your 6th year with Grambling, so you definitely show how to last. But you got anything else before we let Coach go too?
Absolutely, and yes, you've been coaching ladies basketball a very long time, and I grew up with my sister playing basketball. She was actually a lot better than I was in basketball. Definitely say that. My question would be with we know the men's side of the game. We know they generate, it's entertaining and everybody watches it. What do you feel has to be done for the women's game to hit that echelon, kind of, on that same level?
Well, it actually happened when they brought the WNBA to the United States. So many of the women had to go play overseas, and you really wasn't watching them play on a regular basis. But now you can watch a WNBA game now and get just as much enjoyment out of watching them play as you can sometimes the men. The women, there's a lot of women that can play this game, and they can play it at a high level. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of people that come to watch our games that say they would prefer to watch us over the guys play. And so it's there. I think without, they say, the dunking, you got women now that's starting to dunk, the flashy passes and to be able to, shoot the threes from half court, and all the things the men are doing, the women are starting to do. And I think they're starting to get they just do, and I'm glad to see it, because the women play a brand of basketball that I think is appreciated by the true basketball fan. A lot of people say they don't even like to watch the men's game until they get to the playoff, because they really don't start playing until the playoffs. But the women They gonna play from start to finish, and they're gonna give you a show from start to finish, and they're gonna leave it on the court. And that's one thing that you can really appreciate about the women's game that has evolved, is that more people are starting to see it now on a regular basis.
All right, before we go to our shot, you got another question for him too?
I got one more. I feel like everybody has one. What is a goal that you haven't achieved yet that you're looking to achieve?
Well, I want to eventually make it to the Sweet 16. I made it to the Sweet 16 on the WNIT tournament level. You know, I was with a team that won 2 games, and we made it to the Sweet 16, and we could have made it to the Elite 8. But our point guard in the game against Miami that we were winning with 4 minutes left in the game tore ACL, and then our second leading scorer dislocated her shoulder, and we wound up losing to them by single digits. I just feel as though there are teams that can make it that far. There are teams that have not made it that far on the NCAA level, but I would love to see a team from HBCU make it far into the NCAA tournament. You know, put us against other teams starting out where we don't have to play the number 1, number 2 team in the country out the gate. You know, I think our brand of basketball can go a long ways, just as well as a lot of the bigger schools can. But I think, again, that's another subject for another day, and that's a subject that'll take us, that we can probably talk to, till next year. That I won't go, but I just feel as though I want to be one of those teams that advances far into the NCAA tournament, that really bring an even bigger light on HBCU women basketball. That's what Deion and them are trying to do. That's what Hugh Jackson and them are trying to do. And I just think that it's gonna come. It's gonna come. Again, there were teams, and I would go down saying this. There were teams that could have actually won the championship back in the day from an HBCU, but they were not given an opportunity to play.
Agreed. Shout out to our guy, Koji Cox. You know, he was on the Mississippi Valley team who actually got to meet Barack Obama. So, but he was doing it on the men's side. So like we say, it's unthought of, far as on, like women's side. So that's definitely a great goal that, you have set, and hopefully, you'll achieve it.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, before we, let you go, you got any shout outs? How can people, you got any shout outs before we let you go?
Well, we're on Twitter. You can always check us out at GSU_WBK. That's our women's basketball page. And then you can also go onto my page at Coach Murray GSU. Like I said, I'm an old school. My coaches and them, they kind of got me on Twitter. I'm kind of like the old school one that really ain't into the social media stuff, but I know I need to do it. So they kind of keep me up on a lot of these things. And so they got me on the Twitter page, and I'm having fun with it.
Nice. So, one thing about Sports Talk with Friends, we're powered by fans. That's one thing about us. We love, we talk sports just to bring people together. That's our catalyst. So what are your favorite teams? What's your favorite NFL team?
I'm a Saints fan. I actually grew up, being from Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. We didn't really have a team in the state, but we always identified with the New Orleans Saints. Growing up, I think at that time when we were real young, it was either you were a Pittsburgh Steelers fan or you were a Dallas Cowboy fan. I was always a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I was a blue collar. I was a blue collar player. I was a blue collar person, and I cheered for blue collar teams. And so I was always for the team that would do the dirt, do the downright dirty. That was them dogs. That was all about, doing whatever they had to do to win. I wasn't about the flashy and all of that. So I was always for the underdog. So it was either the New Orleans Saints because they were close by, but I was also a Pittsburgh Steelers fan too. And I guess that played into the black and gold now being at Grambling, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, we appreciate you for hanging out with us. So, we're about to get ready to close the show up. So, you got any shout-outs for us?
Shout out to Coach Murray coming by, man. This is my first experience at an interview with anybody, any type. So appreciate you being the first one, man. And I hope all success, praise all to you, man, the course of this season and rest of life, definitely.
Thank you.
Shout out to everybody that tuned in tonight, as always. You know, you guys make us grow. Without you guys, we can't keep the lights on.
You see, we can't give him the mic too long. He wants to talk. Give him the mic, man. Shout out to you for no babies in the background. No babies in the background.
Oh, she
no
was
babies
in
the background.
She was in the background.
But hey, man, definitely y'all thanks for hanging out with us. You do know Leroy, don't say Leroy without the junior. Kicking it with Coach Murray. Man, y'all get a man some love because we about to be up out of here. Coach Lee, let us out.
Thank you, sir, man. I just come out and support the Lady Tiger basketball program, support Grambling and any activities that we take part in. And remember, just keep us in your prayers, man.
Boom. Just like that, we out.